Hey everyone, so it's nearly that time of the year again where all the weddings begin, and I've already a few under my belt this year so far, but it's definitely coming up to bridal season and I'm going to be doing a bridal series. I'll do a few videos showing a few different variety of bridal looks, some that I would do quite commonly on brides here in Ireland and Galway. And I'll also be doing a tips video, so more about the preparation and the run up to the wedding and what to do and what not to do and stuff like that. But this is the first look. This is a really, like it's quite a generic look, as in like I took elements of loads of different things that I find quite popular among brides here in Galway. But this would contain very, very popular bridal colours and colours that I would use 7 out of 10 weddings a lot of the time. So, you know, golden smoky eye, kind of a day friendly smoky eye, but still has enough definition that it'll photograph really well, and then just really pretty kind of neutrally pink cheeks and lips and stuff like that. So I hope this comes in helpful, and of course there'll be more bridal looks coming up soon, so watch on to see how I did this one. Okay, so when you're dealing with bridal makeup, it's probably the most important makeup in the world to prep properly for. So I'm going to speak about like how to prep the skin in the run-up, like in the weeks on the run-up to the actual day in a different video, but for now I'm just going to deal with the morning of. So first of all, I washed my face, of course, and I applied a serum first, and then I applied a moisturiser. So it's up to yourselves whether you want to apply moisturiser with an SPF or just a plain moisturiser. And then you really want to let this sink in, because you really want to be more concerned with the longevity of makeup for this particular occasion. And then once you have that all set in and you have your, don't forget eye cream as well, you want to just make sure you're lovely and plump and moisturised and prepped everywhere. So you definitely want to use a primer of some sort here. Particularly if you're more combination to oily skin. If you're dry skin, maybe use something that's a bit more rich, a little bit, something like say the Strobe cream by MAC. That's a really good, more of an emollient, like illuminating base, but it's nice for softening the skin. But for me, because I'm combination, I'm going to use a silicone based product. So this is the Prep and Prime Skin Smoother by MAC. I'm having a bit of a love affair with this at the moment, so I'm going to use this. And for myself, I'm just going to pop it on using a brush. You can use your fingers as well. Get a little bit on the brush and then smooth it out, particularly over any of the areas where you may get a little bit oily. So the top ingredient of this is silicone. So of course that means it's going to help trap in any of the oils that try to escape and mix in with your foundation. It also helps trap in some of that moisture that you have applied with moisturiser earlier on. And then the third ingredient of the product, so obviously the higher up in the ingredient list, the more prevalent the ingredient is silica. So that means that there is products, or there is the ingredient in there to actually absorb the oil as well as just stop it coming through. So just that much. I like to put a little bit of that underneath my eye. I think I've said that before as well. When it comes to foundation for wedding makeup, you really do want to try and deal with something that's a little bit lower in sunscreen, because you want to be, you know, you want to make sure that there's not going to be too much of a flashback in camera. Also, I don't agree with, I know there can be a bit of a snobbery attached to wedding makeup that everything has to be uber high end, and that's not at all the case. It's about quality, not about how much you pay for it. And there are some great quality products out there. One of my favourite drugstore brands, I don't know if it's a drugstore brand in America, but here it is definitely, and it's the Bourjois. They do beautiful foundations, the Healthy Mix and the Healthy Mix Serum. I use the serum a lot on clients. I love this Healthy Mix one for myself. It's really long lasting. Like I'll get a full 12-hour day out of it. You know, I might get a little bit shiny throughout the day, but I can just touch that up. So it does say 16 hours, but I'd say more 10 to 12 hours, which is pretty much long enough for most of the day. So I'm going to apply my foundation. You don't want to have too much on for this. I mean, you want your skin to look good. So definitely a secret to getting long lasting foundation is layering, especially if you want good coverage without it caking. Do one pass, so do one sweep, one layer of foundation all over your face, and then give it 30 seconds or so just to settle in, and then you can go over any other areas that need a little bit more coverage. This will just give you a much smoother base. It'll also give really good coverage without it looking too heavy. Now I'm just going to apply a little bit of under eye concealer. and focusing definitely on the inner corners where I tend to get quite blue. I'm just going to use a synthetic brush to buff that in. We'll almost tap it on first and then buff it in. So I like the Collection 2000, it's a really inexpensive one. MAC's Select Cover Up is brilliant, the new Mineralized Concealer by MAC. They'd be my favourite concealers to use, they'd be the main ones that I'd use. Just lightly blend that all the way in. And sometimes I like to put a little bit of concealer just up underneath the brow bone. Or rather just up underneath the brow. Because I tend to get a little bit red sometimes from plucking. If it is the day of your wedding, make sure that you've plucked the day before. Don't pluck on the morning or anything like that, because you don't want to have to worry about getting any little rashes or anything like that. So we can touch up the concealer, and especially the concealer on the face once we've the eyes done. So I tend to jump ahead and do the eyes once I have that first layer of foundation on. This allows for any little bits to fall down onto the face from the eyeshadow, and I can clean them up easily before setting my foundation. So I'm just going to apply some eye primer now. So again, primer is just really important for long lasting makeup. This is the BH Cosmetics Eye and Lip Primer. It's my favourite eye primer. And you can put a little bit just onto the inner corner as well. I like these primers because they almost work like a concealer. So they do cover up some discoloration and stuff like that, and they even out the skin tone as well as acting as an eyeshadow base. So I really like that. So I always start off with the lighter eyeshadow colour. I'm going to use my Bourjois number 8 Ombre Paupier. So this is just a really nice beigey pearl eyeshadow. What I like about it is that it's not totally matte, it's more of a satin finish, so it's not really shiny or sheeny, so it'll photograph quite well and it'll still give a nice little bit of a highlight. So I'm just going to apply that all over, just underneath the arch area. And I always press eyeshadow on to make sure that it sets onto the skin. And then I'm going to put a little bit just in here to the inner corner. So this is going up onto the nose bridge almost. And that'll just help counteract any of those natural shadows we get, which again is going to be good for photographs. So you can obviously use something that has a bit of a shine on it for photography and for wedding makeup. You just want to make sure that it's not going to be obnoxiously shiny. So I'm going to use Woodwind here by MAC, which is a really beautiful true gold eyeshadow, and it has quite a sheeny finish, or it has quite a pearl finish, but it does turn out beautiful in photographs, and this is one of the most popular colours definitely for bridal looks here anyhow. I'm going to apply that over the moving part of the lid, so I'm not going to bring it much up further than my actual crease line. So again, pack it on, and then you can kind of run your brush back and forth there just to get it into that crease. And then I'm also going to apply a little bit of that just underneath the lower lashes. So just use a brush that has a bit of a finer tip, so you can get it right up close to the lash line. I don't like to bring metallic-y colours or like shiny colours all the way underneath the eyes. Sometimes it can just look a bit strange, but it's nice to have it just in there on the inner third or so. And for a highlight, just for around the tear duct, I'm going to use some of my vanilla pigment by MAC. I have some in a little sample pot here. I absolutely love this pigment. It's one of my favourite ones. It's one that I use more often, more than any of the other MAC pigments. It is kind of like a white gold. Just gorgeous. So I'm just going to use a tiny little brush. Wipe out any wee bits that fall down, but we can fix that up anyhow before we set the foundation. Next I'm going to use Wedge by MAC, which is a lovely medium neutral brown there. And just using a blending brush, I'm going to apply that into the crease. And I'm just running this back and forth in windshield wiper motions. You don't want to bring it up too high, depending on your eye space, but it's better not to go right up obviously to the brow. You want to leave that highlight area underneath the arch. So if you need to, it might be a good idea to just have a clean blending brush that you can run along the edge. And I'm going to pick up that brush that I used to apply the vanilla and put some of the wedge on it, and I'm going to use that to run underneath the lower lashes. You want to make sure that the eyes are defined so that they photograph really well, but you don't necessarily want them to be too defined, as in like you don't need loads of black or a really harsh looking overly done eye. So using soft enough colours will work fine. But it is better to use more mattes, especially around the contours of the eye. I'm just going to run my blending brush that has a bit of the wedge on it just along that lower edge. It'll give a lovely romantic kind of subtle smoky feel. Next I'm going to use a gorgeous MAC Squared eyeshadow by MAC called Handwritten, and I'm going to first pack this onto the outer corner. Just using an eyeshadow brush and darken out that outer third or so of the lid. You can kind of blend it in with the wood winked as you go. I like using this because this is more of a red based and it contrasts nicely against the gold of the wood winked. And I'm going to use the tip of that brush again and apply a little bit of that right up into the lash line. So layering the shadows like this will really make sure that they last as well. And I'm just going to get a little bit of the Handwritten onto the tip of my blending brush and pop it right into the crease. I don't want to bring it up too far, so I'm putting it right into the hollow there and bringing it back and forth. And then I can go in with my clean blending brush and soften the edge of that. Don't want to bring it up too high, so I'm not going to use the other blending brush to do that. So this would be something that I do quite a lot, this type of look. I'm just going to go into that bourgeois again, just run that along the edge to really help blend those two together. And now I'm just going to do my eyebrows. I'm going to use my lingering eyebrow pencil. Now of course I'm growing my eyebrows out at the moment, but if you were coming up to your wedding, leave it till either afterwards or make sure you give yourself plenty of time, as in like a couple of months beforehand, so that they're more grown out. So you don't have to rely so heavily on filling them in. So try and go for a soft enough arch, and the further out the arch, the more natural it is. If you're not used to filling in your eyebrows, if you have very, very, very fair eyebrows, it is a good idea to maybe have a go at doing them on the run up, you know, maybe a couple of months before the wedding, just so you'll get a chance to get used to seeing yourselves with a bit of eyebrows, because in the photographs, if you have very fair eyebrows that you don't fill in, they'll just disappear and you won't see them at all. So it is a good idea to put a little bit of something through them just to help them show up. So definitely set your eyebrows with a little bit of a gel or a clear mascara or something as well, particularly if you have slightly thicker eyebrows, you know, anything around my own thickness or more, or if you have slightly longer unruly brows, definitely set them in place as well. So I'm going to avoid using liquid liner for this look just to keep it a little bit softer, and I'm just going to use a black powder to line my upper lids. So I'm going to use an angled brush. This is just the Sedona EB23. You could use the MAC 266 or 263, whichever you have. Any angled brush, and literally just lay it against the lash line, keeping it really close to the eyebrow hairs. And it's up to yourselves how far in towards the inner corner you want to go. For more of a wide set look, a wide-eyed look, keep it more on the outer half, which is what I'm going to do. And then it's up to yourselves what kind, if you want to flick or if you don't want to flick. You can do a really soft flick. Since it's powder, it's not going to look like a really strong retro kind of thing. Let's do the same here. Now a lot of brides tend not to go for the flick. It's totally up to yourselves. But if it's something that you do tend to do in your own style on a daily basis, keep with it, because you still want to look like yourself. And of course the flick is definitely something I would go for. So that would be pretty much how it would look like with the flick. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what it would look like without the flick, just because, you know, to give you the option. So you could leave it like that, and then if you don't want the flick, what you want to do is apply a little bit of the black onto your blending brush and just put it in that very outer corner. Go back into your clean blending brush then just to soften any edge. So you're not applying too much, you're really just keeping it on that outer corner, the V area. If you want, you can go back into one of your lighter colours, so I'm just going to tip a little bit of the wedge back onto my brush and then run that just along the edge. I'm going to get whatever black is left on that angled brush and apply a little bit just to the very, very outer edge to help connect up the eyeshadow. So just like that. Now another thing that you could do if you want is apply a colour onto the inner waterline. This is definitely up to yourselves whether you want to make it a little bit more sultry looking or if you want to make the eyes look bigger or whatever. You could put a white in there, which is very popular, to make your eyes bright and whatever, but again you could also opt for a bit of a slightly deeper colour. Black is fine if that's what you're used to and you have quite big eyes. Sometimes it's nice to go for something in between, so I'm going to actually use a brown. So I'm going to use this new sleek Ooh La La liner, and it's in Nutcracker, which is just a lovely warm brown shade. And this is waterproof as well, which is going to be really handy for any tears on the day. It is better to try and use as many waterproof products like this around the eye as possible. Apply plenty of black mascara. Use a waterproof mascara, of course, on the day to make sure that there's not going to be any mascara running down your face if you do start to blubber or any panda eyes. I don't have any just around me at the moment, so I'm just going to apply this Hot and Naughty by MAC, but there are some great waterproof mascaras out. The new Zoom Water Fast Black by MAC is really good. If you can get your hands on a tubular mascara, that's also great. They don't go at all until you use warm water at the end of the day to take them off. Or you could use the Max Factor mascaras, I really like as well. It's like the Masterpiece mascaras. Be careful then if you want to run a little bit of mascara on the bottom lashes. You just want to make sure that it's going to be a really good quality waterproof mascara. Pixiu did a great video there a while ago on road testing waterproof mascaras. I think Nikki even went into the shower at one stage with one of the mascaras. So if you want to have a look at mascaras that actually work, like waterproof mascaras that really work and you don't have to worry about them running at all, definitely have a look at their video. As long as it's a really good mascara, you can pop a little bit underneath the lashes. So once you have the eyes finished, you can go ahead and clean up any mess or any fallout from doing the eyeshadow. I don't have too much, but I'm just going to apply a little bit more concealer. Try not to use anything too light reflective because again you want to be concerned about the photography and make sure that it comes out well in photos. So I'm going to conceal any little blemishes I have. It's just a Bobbi Brown touch-up stick. And I'm going to put some down the centre of my nose and blend that in. So once you have your base done and your concealer in place, you definitely want to set it. So I'm going to use my Bourjois Healthy Balance Unifying Powder. This is a long lasting one, it's got 10 hours apparent wear in it. So the reason I like this is because it's not like shiny or shimmery, it's a natural matte finish. So it'll photograph really well, and this is a nice pale colour as well. I'm the number 52 Vanilla. So always press the powder in place so you don't ruin the coverage of the foundation and the concealer that you already applied. Particularly make sure that you set any areas where you put on concealer. Even if you're a bit dry, you can apply a tiny bit of powder. The trick is just not to apply too much. You can always put a bit of Fix Plus or something like that over it then, once it's on. That's enough. And then at this stage I usually apply my lip primer. The MAC lip primer works best when you apply it and then leave it settle for about 30 seconds to a minute because you want it to set. It goes a little bit tacky on the lips. This is what really grabs onto the product, to the lip products afterwards, and makes it last long. So I'm going to apply that all over the lip line, and I'm going to go over the lip line a tiny bit. It helps stop feathering, so that helps with that. So one of my favourite blushes to use for bridal makeups is this guy here. It's called Blush Baby. It's just a really natural dusky pink, and it just gives a really lovely natural flush to the cheeks. So I'm just going to apply that to the apples and high up enough on the cheeks, and then bring it up towards my hairline. Again, build it up, because layering any product, regardless of whether it's powder or liquid, will make it last much longer. Now I also want to apply a highlighter. I usually do this before the powder, but it's fine as long as you're careful afterwards. So this is the MAC Cream Colour Base. I'm just going to lightly tap a teeny bit there on top of the cheekbone. You don't need too much of this to show up. It just gives a beautiful sheen to the skin. The creams tend to photograph a little bit better than the powders, so that's why I like to use this. And you rarely would get very oily up on the cheek area. If you do, of course, you can stick to powders, but most people get away with using a cream product up here. I just don't find that this breaks down the makeup. It's just like so, and then I'm going to put a little bit down, just the centre of the nose, starting up around the arch area, and onto the cupid's bow. Contouring isn't something I tend to do too often with bridal makeups unless they particularly want to be contoured. If I was going to contour, I'd use something really light. So for my own skin tone, it would be something similar to this LetzMakeup powder blush in Primal. It'll just give a really natural contour. It's almost just like a shadow. So pop a little bit onto the tip of the brush and just a teeny bit into the hollow. So it's not like a really sculpted look, because it's not what we're going for. This is already slightly more glamorous wedding makeup than a lot of people would go for. And then for the lips, I tend to like to go for a neutral pink. So I'm going to apply some Subculture by MAC first and fill in the entire lip. And once you get to the outline, you can slow down and start to define the shape. And then to finish the lips, rather than put a lipstick on, I personally find it a bit easier to just touch up lip liner and gloss. It's up to yourself. And then with the more dramatic eyes, I like to keep the lips a little bit more pared down. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of my Big Baby Lip Glass by MAC, or Plush Glass, and I'm just going to pat that over the centre of the lips. You don't need to put lip gloss all over the lip, as in like right up to the edge. That's what really causes bleeding. And if you really want to get that extra dimensional look, it really works better to just put it in the centre of the lips. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this was helpful. I will of course be doing a couple of more bridal looks for you. I'll do some of the more natural looks, and this is probably as dramatic as I go, unless you want more of a like a retro kind of 1950s style look, which I can do if you want. Just let me know in the comments below. But yeah, this would be a look that I would do quite often anyhow on Irish brides here in Galway. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks a million for watching, and I'll talk to you all really soon. So long, guys.